This month in video game history.
August.
August traditionally is a pretty slow month for video gaming. With the summer coming to an end, the buzz from E3 winding down, and the anticipation of upcoming fall releases, August tends to get left out. However, there were quite a few notable events over the years that took place.
Jimmy Carter projected as the next president of the United States.
Way back in August 1976, the first cartridge-based system was released. The Fairchild Video Entertainment System, later renamed the Channel F, was also the first console to use a microprocessor. 27 official video carts were released, with 2 games integrated into the system. In August of 1982, Colecovision was made available for sale in the United States. By Christmas of that year, they would sell over 500,000 units, partly due to its included game cartridge. The success would be short-lived, though, as the system was discontinued just over 3 years later. That same month, PC gaming was beginning to grow as the Commodore 64 was released to the public. While it does have less powerful hardware than a watch today, the Commodore 64 was the object of every young gamer's affection in the early 1980s. Quite pricey and certainly no toy, the C64 was marketed toward adults. The system surprisingly lasted well into the 90s and had literally thousands of games available, including early online gaming. Most predominantly, Mud. This month also saw the release of the first Metroid game, first in Japan in 1986, then the following August in North America for the NES. Metroid would spawn a number of sequels and is featured predominantly on many best-of-all-time lists. Also in August of '87, American gamers got their hands on The Legend of Zelda. Not only was it considered one of the greatest adventures ever to grace the controller, Legend of Zelda was also the first cartridge to contain an internal battery for saving data. On August 14, 1989, Sega released the Genesis in North America. After much difficulty gaining a foothold in the region with consoles during the 1980s, the Genesis took aim at the aging NES by having superior graphics and sound. An aggressive ad campaign would drag the two competitors into what would later become known as the Console Wars. 2 years later, Nintendo released the Super Nintendo in North America on August 23, 1991. The system featured a 16-bit processor and was able to deliver better graphics and audio compared to the NES. The system's Super FX chip led to the first ever 3-dimensional video game on a console, Star Fox. Though it would never quite reach the success of its predecessor, the Super Nintendo was the best-selling console of its era. On August 28, 1992, the Ninth Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals reversed the decision that game maker Accolade violated copyright laws when it reverse-engineered Sega Genesis cartridges in order to get around licensing. The circuit court ruled that Accolade's use of reverse engineering to publish Genesis titles was protected under fair use, and that its alleged violation of Sega's trademarks was the fault of Sega forcing mislabeling. The case is frequently cited in matters involving reverse engineering, fair use, and copyright law. On August 1, 1994, a federal jury ordered Nintendo to pay over $200 million to the Alpex Computer Corporation in violation of a patent filed by Alpex in '77 dealing with how video output is displayed. In 1996, Nintendo would win an appeal, and in '97 the Supreme Court would refuse to hear the case, leaving Nintendo free of the bill. August 25, 1997, gamers got their split screen on as Goldeneye 007 was released for the Nintendo 64. Despite a lackluster response from the gaming media after E3 that summer, Goldeneye proved that FPS could be done on the console and could be done right. The game set the standard for multiplayer FPS on a console and would stay on top until 2001 when Halo would take the mantle. Gamers still get giddy and nostalgic over this one, encouraging a relaunch for the Wii in 2010. And finally, on August 24, 2000, Nintendo announced the GameCube system at a press conference in Japan. Trying to regain its place in the industry, Nintendo would release the system the following year to a public that was already dominated by the PlayStation 2 and then new Xbox, which had far superior hardware to the GameCube. Additionally, Nintendo's firm, family-friendly stance would see some of the biggest titles of the day skipping the system entirely. It would never see a higher than 13% share of the market. That's this month in video game history for August. Be sure to subscribe for more in-depth looks at the biggest moments in video game history each month.